Good evening. Calling the board meeting to order on today, Monday, September 27th at 6 p.m. Ms. Marsan, are you ready to take the roll?
Yep, sorry about that. Yep, and Mrs. Barker is absent today. So Mrs. Bell,
Yes, here.
Mr. Lackner,
Here.
Mrs. McCabe,
Here.
Mr. McNally,
Here.
Ms. Weibel,
Here.
and Mrs. Fairgrieve.
Here. And now we'll move to Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn to closed session by roll call vote for the purposes of number one, the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees, specific individuals who serve as independent contractors in a park, recreational, or educational setting, or specific volunteers of the public body or legal counsel for the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee, a specific individual who serves as an independent contractor in a park, recreational, or educational setting, or a volunteer of the public body, or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity. Number two, collective negotiating matters between the public body and its employees or their representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees. And three, litigation, when an action against, affecting, or on behalf of the particular public body has been filed and is pending before a court or administrative tribunal, or when the public body finds that an action is probable or imminent, in which case the basis for the finding shall be recorded and entered into the minutes of the closed meeting.
So moved. Second.
Okay, thank you. We have a first and second. Mrs. Marsan, will you take the roll call vote?
Yes, Mr. Lackner,
Yes.
Mrs. McCabe,
Yes.
Mr. McNally,
Yes.
Ms. Weibel,
Yes.
Mrs. Bell,
Yes.
and Mrs. Fairgrieve.
Yes. The motion passes. We are moving into closed session at 6:02 p.m. Okay, let's go ahead and return to open session. And with that, Ms. Marsan will take a roll call vote.
Mrs. McCabe,
Here.
Mr. McNally,
Here.
Miss Weibel,
Here.
Mrs. Bell,
Here.
Mr. Lackner,
Here.
and Mrs. Fairgrave.
Here. And we are resuming on Monday, September 27th at 7:08 PM. Moving to a public hearing for the fiscal year 2021-2022 District 303 budget. Vice President Fairgrave calls the public hearing for the fiscal year 2021 to 2022 Community Union School District 303 budget to order. Vice President Fairgrave reminds the board that the budget was discussed at the July 26th Business Services meeting and approved for public display, public hearing at the August 16th school board meeting. Do we have any public comments? Public comments related to the hearing? No problem. Sorry? To the budget.
only, yeah.
Okay, are there any board comments related to this hearing on the D303 budget? Okay. Okay, the hearing regarding the fiscal year 2021-2022 Community Union School District 303 budget is now closed. Next, moving to public hearing for fiscal year 2021-2022 Mid-Valley Special Education Cooperative Budget. Vice President Fairgrave calls the public hearing for the fiscal year 2021-2022 Mid-Valley Special Education Cooperative Budget to order. Vice President Fairgrave reminds the board that the budget was discussed at the July 26th Business Services meeting and approved for public display, public hearing at the August 16th school board meeting. Are there any public comments as it relates to this particular budget hearing? Okay, are there any comments from the board related to this budget hearing? Okay. Okay, the hearing regarding the fiscal year 2021-2022 Mid-Valley Special Education Cooperative Budget is now closed. Before we move to the next agenda item, I do want to call to your attention that agenda or action item 11G, the creation of a special committee to review UGP complaint against a board member, is being postponed to the meeting on October 12th. Okay. And next, we'll move to the superintendent's report.
Yes, thanks, Ms. Fairgrave. I have three brief items that I would just like to update the board on this evening. The first one is, I think you probably all noticed the weather last week. We had a very successful homecoming celebration at East High School. I don't think we've had weather that was more perfect for a parade than what we had on Friday afternoon. So those of you that were able to see that, I'd like to congratulate our staff at East High School and our students for an outstanding week. I know we had to be creative and a little out of the box in some of our activities, but in doing so, I think we were able to provide a really outstanding week of celebration for our students and staff. So it felt really good to have the opportunity to kind of get back to a sense of normalcy with regards to homecoming. I would like to just mention that we have a second opportunity to do that again in just a couple of weeks with North High School. North High School's homecoming week starts October the 12th. And so we are hoping for exactly the same weather for North. So we're keeping our fingers crossed, realizing that we are headed into October in Northern Illinois. So hopefully it will hold. I also wanted to mention this evening that we actually have received notification that we have 4 National Merit Semi-Finalists, 2 at each of our high schools. In addition to that, we have 26 commended students from the National Merit Program. As you know, we typically will recognize those students that move to the finalist portion of the process later in the school year, but so far we have 2 at East and 2 at North. And we look forward to recognizing them at a later board meeting. Also on Friday, we launched a new campaign in District 303 called District 303 Extraordinary, which is an opportunity for us to recognize extraordinary staff, extraordinary students, and extraordinary learning. We are very excited about having a chance to highlight some of our staff members, some of our students, and some of the learning experiences that are happening across the district. It's a social media campaign. We actually started with staff on Friday with collecting information and nominees to be recognized. We'll be rolling that out to the broader community and to our students later this month and within the next couple of weeks. And we look forward to having the opportunity to recognize really some of the extraordinary things that are happening across the district. I think, in light of all that's going on in our community and with all of the challenges that we're faced related to COVID, it's important that we take some time to celebrate some of the successes that are happening as well. And we really do have some great things that are happening across the district. And so we look forward to having the opportunity to highlight that both in social media posts, but also through some of our other district communications. And so you should be looking for more information about D303 Extraordinary. That completes the superintendent's report. Thank you, Ms. Fairgrieve.
Okay, any questions for Dr. Pearson? Okay, thank you very much for that update. Now we'll move to citizen comments, and we do have one interest for a comment this evening. Could Mrs. Elisa Ignash please step forward?
I think I need to read the.
Yes, you do.
The school code provides for a public comment period at each board meeting, subject to reasonable constraints. The practice of this board is to limit public comment to 3 minutes per speaker to a total of 30 minutes per meeting. Speakers addressing the board are expected to maintain a reasonable level of civility. Also, personnel matters are sensitive and confidential. Comments regarding individuals should be respectful. Insults and defamatory remarks have no place in this setting. The board will terminate public comment if speakers cannot adhere to these guidelines. Please identify yourself at the beginning of your remarks.
Hi, my name is Elisa Ignash. I normally come up here very prepared, so you're gonna have to give me a little bit of forgiveness tonight. The first thing I would like to do is thank the board for making sure families were welcomed into the open house experience. We really appreciated that. We enjoyed it thoroughly. And then again, making sure that we have in the upcoming parent-teacher conference an in-person opportunity to be in the building as well. My question tonight is directly for Dr. Pearson. As of my last received update, parent volunteers are not allowed in the building, although we were allowed for open house and again for parent-teacher conference. Is this still the direction our principals have? If so, why? And when will this change? What is the actual goalpost is the information I'm looking for. I'm asking a specific question because at the elementary level, we are planning Halloween parties now. Teachers are asking for help. Parents would like to help. We're willing to wear the masks, do the test, whatever it is that we need to do to make it work. These are 5 and 6 and 7-year-olds who have been playing bingo and coloring at their desks, and we've been calling it a party. One teacher can't facilitate the activities that you and I and maybe our older kids have memories of for 20 to 27 kids. We want to see this return to normal for these kids and have these memories and have these experiences. And that's going to have to include parent volunteers to create that memory and experience for them. Again, I don't have a really great wrap up here. So I just wanted to ask if I could have that information, whether it be tonight in the meeting or sent to me directly. What do we need to do to make that happen for these students that are not getting that experience? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving to agenda item number 9, which would be committee reports. Why don't we start with learning and teaching? Okay.
No, it's cool. It's all good. Yeah. Hang on, I'm looking for it. Many meetings. Okay, so we had a learning and teaching meeting, seems like a year ago, but it was August 16th. We had the review of equity audit proposals. We had 3 different companies, the Integrated Comprehensive System for Equity, which was ICS. They partnered with different districts across the country. If you guys recall, they were the ones that kind of integrated their recommendations with a plan. So they did the audit as well as can roll out a plan to help. But they didn't have, they did those separately. So we don't have to go with them if that's what was interesting for us. They provide professional development. They focus on systems of change to increase achievement for students. They talked a lot about academic achievement for all students, which I think has been a goal for the board. They talked about identify patterns and themes used to create essential next steps. Their audit timeline was 28 days, and then the final product takes approximately 3 months. So we asked for a whole list of requests from Dr. Igo to go back to those vendors, a list of local districts, requesting the percentage of districts that continue to partnership. We wanted to see some examples. And so she is going back to that vendor, and that's kind of across all vendors. So the second group was District Management Group. And they were established in 2004, and they have a mission to achieve systemic improvement in public education by combining management techniques and education best practices. So instead of coming in and doing the consultation themselves, they kind of guide us. So it's not as comprehensive. I shouldn't say comprehensive. It's just a different feel of a product and support. So it was a little bit different environment. They offer services in 2 parts: equity opportunity review and the annual partnership to help sustain focus, energy, and direction. We actually already have a subscription to some of their programs. So we could utilize that in the long run as well, if we wanted to look at them once an audit is done with a different organization. We asked them for some of the same requests that we asked the other one for. And of course, we wanted a copy of the presentation. The last was the state program, Midwest and Plains Equity Assistance Center. And they talked about tiered support across a broad range of industries through their website, and they have access to resources developed in-house, as well as outside resources that have been vetted by the group. It's not a program or training, but they act as facilitators. So everything was kind of tier stepped as we went through each vendor. It's a continuous improvement partnership, and we would fall within their tier 3 level of services. So we sent all of our concerns and questions to Dr. Igo and Dr. Taylor, and they're working on a follow-up for us for the next L&T, which obviously is now going to be October. We're also going to be looking at enrollment numbers and overview of the curriculum timeline. And I'm not sure how that's all going to fit in October. So we're going to have to work around that a little bit. And I don't have the date in front of us. Do you know the date by chance? 18th? Okay. So that next meeting is October 18th.
Thank you, Ms. Weibel, for that update. Next, the Citizen Advisory Committee meeting.
Sorry. We spent 20 minutes trying to figure out who was going to do it. We met last Thursday, and we had a very good turnout. We only had a few people who were unable to attend. It was streamed, and I think you can see it also online. We did some activities in order to get to know each other, as well as to get a sense from the group whether the norms that we have determined will help us to go forward. Dr. Pearson reported out on the facilities master plan and gave an update with that. And then our work was about the hopes and the expectations and challenges that CAC may face in the upcoming year. Then we went into giving them proposed the two tasks that we had talked about as a board. We will be voting on those later in this meeting, which has to do with public comment as well as two-way communication with the community. We gave them a document to read and to begin to think and ask questions so that when we come back together in October, we'll be able to start the work on those two tasks. Our exec team did lots of the leading, and Mrs. Smith did as well. So we appreciate the work they did. And I think we had a very positive ending to the whole committee meeting. People were ready to go and were energized.
Okay, thank you for that update. Mr. Lackner, Business Services.
Sure. The Business Services Committee met on the 30th of August. And in addition to discussions about the bus routes and the back to school events, other items that were included in the discussion there included the financial statements for Mid-Valley and a financial report for the period ending July 31 for District 303. Both of those bits of information were included in the board packet for the September 13th meeting. In addition, Mr. Attaway gave a financial impact summary of the COVID-19 funding, and that also was included in the September 13 board meeting packet for review. Interestingly, we had a good presentation from PMA Securities on the bond market so that we could better understand the potential for the district to take on additional debt if we were to choose to do so. And the key findings associated with that report were really that it's a good time to take on debt. Interest rates are low. That means money is cheaper than it might be otherwise. In addition to that, the district's debt carrying capacity is quite favorable presently. And so money is cheap and our carrying capacity is as good as it's going to be. In addition, we covered the renewals for PSAT. We also looked at a couple of additional things like the potential to engage in a request for quotes associated with electricity. We also talked about the school maintenance project grant, and Mr. Baird and Mr. Attaway informed the committee that we're again authorized to submit for that grant, and the application is underway. We went through an emergency contract amendment for food management, which ended up on the September 13th board meeting agenda for a vote. And then we had a presentation on the board docs contract, which is on tonight's meeting for action for a vote. In addition to that, we explored from a technology standpoint, the Dark Trace Antigena email subscription, which is a cybersecurity protection program that ended up on the September 13th board meeting for approval on the consent agenda. That pretty much covers everything that was on business services.
Okay, thank you very much for that update. Next, we did have a policy committee meeting. Do you have an update that you want to provide? I'm sorry.
If you'll give me about 2 seconds, I'll
Okay.
get ready for that one. Give me 2
Okay.
seconds. Okay, we did have a policy committee meeting also on the 30th. Thank you for your patience there as I switched my notes. Couple of different things that we talked about there. One was the motion to clarify the board's return to school plan. There was quite a discussion about the motion, and the discussion led to the decision to bring that motion back to the following or the next policy committee meeting with some wording changes after some discussion of words like mandate and others. And so a revised version of that motion will be in the next policy committee meeting with a new draft. We also talked about the district e-learning plan and the renewal associated with that. And there was a detailed list of policy issue changes coming from the press subscription, and those will be acted on in today's consent agenda. In addition, the required review associated with the prevention of and response to bullying, intimidation, and harassment policy was conducted. We had a discussion there. That too is in today's vote. And we had a discussion about some of the same concepts around citizen comments and the lead into public comments that was read tonight, and that was also discussed at the CAC. And that discussion was forwarded to the CAC to weigh into communications between how the board introduces the public comments section, as well as how that statement could be revised. And that's the sum of the policy meeting. What have I missed?
Very good. Thank you. And last, Ms. Weibel, you had a couple of committee updates.
I did. Thank you very much, Mrs. Fairgrave. I appreciate that. I just wanted to mention that we did have our quarterly safety meeting. We can't say much about it because it's a confidential content because of safety of the students. But we did discuss, we are working with municipalities and discuss the reunification plan in the case of an emergency event at locations, at school locations. And it's a very comprehensive plan for students and parents. So it's very exciting. There's a dedicated group of people that work on that committee. And I thank Mr. Baird and his team continually for working very hard and diligently for the safety of our students. So thank you very much for that. We have those meetings approximately quarterly. And so due to safety, again, we don't share the dates. Okay, the other update that I know we've kind of talked on and off about is the concept of legislative liaison. I just wanted to give an update about some of the legislative things that are going on out there. It's been a busy, I don't know, 6 weeks. I met with Senator DeWitt and Representative Ugasti in August to discuss the mask and the mask situation in our area. They've been meeting with our constituents as well and encouraging them to continue to send communication to Springfield, explicitly communicating their concerns regarding whatever their issues are and political concerns are and rights and what have you. I don't want to get into, there's both sides of the coin. So I don't want to get into the political debate of what's what, but they did say that, the governor, their response has been, the governor is taking this out of our hands. We had our decision. We cannot not follow it because of our fiduciary responsibility to our taxpayers. They also concur and agree kind of with what District 303 is doing. We talked about what the impact was. They asked us about the impact. I talked about the estimated 15 million that we talked about last time and how we want to make sure our graduates are validated and IHSA rulings and all the things that we've talked about at this table. Representative Ugasti put forth a House Bill 843 regarding a proclamation talking about an overexertion of power by the governor. Unfortunately, it did not move forward in the House. It did die in the Rules Committee, but he is still working with his colleagues in his party to put forth some communication. Senator DeWitt said there might be a Senate resolution coming down the pike, and then I spoke with both of them about interaction with our board, and they don't currently have any committees like I sit on the other side of the coin. And so I encourage them to, they have a quarterly committee, Senator DeWitt does that Dr. Pearson sits on. I encourage them to perhaps reach out to the board presidents to see if they'd like to join that, or encourage them to maybe have a quarterly board president committee. So I really hope that they take that to heart. And of course, President Barker was in support of that as well. They are proponents for local control. And again, saying, reach out to the legislators and they will say the same. On the other side of the coin, I have been consulting with Senator Villa and Representative Hirschauer on their committee for mental health, and we work with them on a monthly basis on multiple issues and topics. Again, my whole question was, can we get that going for the other side of the coin too? They specifically, I have notes on that, sorry. They were working with the Suicide Prevention Month. They asked and coordinated with agencies about that this last month in September and October, and worked specifically with our school districts. They also were talking about a art program that they wanted to get involved to help reach out to students, especially during this time where they think that COVID has specifically impacted students' mental health. And it's a priority that we talk about quite often. There is still some discussion about a 708 consolidation in this county. So we're still talking about that extensively. There are some monies that are coming down from the feds that they are helping distribute through the county. So, I mean, we're all for more distribution money in the county, so that's great. And I think that was pretty much it for Senator Villa. The other thing is we spoke to the ROE and IASB. This, I would say, I don't know, this week, last week, about the concerns about safety and security with elected members and board members in particular. And they will share our concerns in Springfield, in government and legislation when they're in session. They told me about a bill, which I did not know about, HB 51414151, that was just started about its interaction protesting on school property. So that would be one to keep an eye on. And I apologize, it was 5141 or 4151. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about was Dr. Pearson, myself, and Senator DeWitt have gone through line by line SB 818, the sex ed bill that has caused a lot of concern for many of our constituents. We've heard a lot from our constituents about that. And there's going to be some documentation, I think, that goes out to clarify that. But Dr. Pearson, can I go through a couple of the specifics on it? So we went through the bill, and there's line on page 14. I don't know, I know no one has the bill handy, but just, I'm going to reference it so anyone can look at it. But on page 13, it talks about that there's a student opt-out. On page 15, it talks about the schools choose the curriculum. And then there's clarification on 16 and 17 that talks about exactly what they want to be taught in K through 5 and 6 through 12. And it specifically talks about what we're doing already, which is, I'm not going to read it all, but it's all in that bill about the basics of basically stranger danger, and then Aaron's Law for 6 through 12. And so because the districts can choose their own curriculum, and we're already covering what the topics that are required, we don't feel that it would change in this district in particular. The language in the front half of the bill that's concerning to a lot of people in the public is a suggested language and suggested curriculum. So I don't think that, and I shouldn't say I don't think, we are saying it's not going to be the concern that people are concerned about. So it's really important that if anyone has questions about it, to call the district office and have a conversation with the administration, or to call the board, or to call your legislator, because they understand it very in depth.
Are you and Mr. McNally anticipating this would be a future agenda item for learning and teaching, just to be able to understand what our curriculum is today and reconcile that?
We haven't talked about it, but that's a great idea.
We haven't talked about it yet. I was waiting to see what happened with this bill before we went forward and started to have a conversation. I wanted to know really what the scope of the conversation was going to be.
Fair enough.
So-
Do we have a timeline? What is the?
I mean, it's passed, the bill
Yeah.
is in.
I think what we're waiting for is the bill actually directs the Illinois State Board of Education to develop a criteria and a curriculum. So I think it would be important for us to wait for that guidance from the state board before we move forward with any analysis of the guidelines.
Mhm.
Like you said, there's a lot in the bill that is suggested or that really highlights what they've identified to be the latest research or the the current practice across the country. I think the part that's important is that now we are going to have state criteria that will be developed. And at that point, it would be important to have a further conversation. Dr. Igo, did you have anything to add? I think we're just waiting for the state information next. And once that comes out, then we can bring
Yeah.
it to you for a discussion.
Okay, that's great. And
Any feel for the timeline for that? Oh,
yeah.
of 2022?
Yeah, this is for 2020 curriculum. So
Is it
some
for 2023? curriculum?
22, sorry. I said, is it?
Yeah, I believe it's for the 2022, 2023
Yeah, 22.
school year.
Okay,
And we were in flux as far our last planning meeting, we weren't even aware that there wasn't going to be a regular LNT meeting. And so that might have come up during that discussion, but of course we didn't have that meeting. So,
Yes, correct.
so it's something that I intended to bring up for our next meeting, just to determine the when and where that would go. 'Cause
Right.
it's certainly an item that I think bears discussion.
yeah, I agree. So I appreciate both of you
Yeah.
considering that on your docket.
If there's any concerns that this board has in regards to specific legislation, I mean, for instance, there's now signed into law HB 2400, which is just that there has to be prior notice given to students and parents for drills for law enforcement, for when we have shooter drills and things like that, which we already do. We do 30 days notice. So, I mean, some of these things we're going through are fairly benign, but if there's anything that you have questions about that you're seeing bills or you would like me to inquire with any of our legislators that you are not talking to already, please let me know. And I'm happy to do so in any of the meetings. All right. Thank you, Mrs. Fairgrave.
Thank you. Thank you for both of those updates. Now moving to item number 10, the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda items 10A.1 through 10I?
So moved.
And second,
Second.
thank you. Ms. Marsan, will you take a roll call vote?
Mr. McNally,
Yes.
Ms. Weibel,
Yes.
Mrs. Bell,
Yes.
Mr. Lackner,
Yes.
Mrs. McCabe,
Yes.
and Mrs. Fairgrave.
Yes, so motion passes 7-0. Right, oh, sorry, 6 automatic there. 6-0 with Ms. Barker's absence. Okay. Thank you for that correction. Item 11, for action. So A is the adoption of fiscal year 2021 to 2022 Community Union School District 303 budget. Do I have a motion to approve the adoption of fiscal year 2021, 2022 Community Union School District 303 budget?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Weibel,
Yes.
Mrs. Bell,
Yes.
Mr. Lackner,
Yes.
Mrs. McCabe,
Yes.
Mr. McNally,
Yes.
and Mrs. Fairgrave.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. Item B, adoption of fiscal year 2021 to 2022 Mid-Valley Special Education Cooperative Budget. Do I have a motion to approve the adoption of fiscal year 2021, 2022 Mid-Valley Special Education Cooperative Budget?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay,
Mrs. Bell,
Yes.
Mr. Lackner,
Yes.
Mrs. McCabe,
Yes.
Mr. McNally,
Yes.
Ms. Weibel,
Yes.
and Mrs. Fairgrave.
yes. Motion passes 6-0. And just a reminder to everyone, if you could, at the end of the meeting, please see Ms. Marsan to actually sign both of the budget documents. Item C, amended K-8 COVID-19 emergency contract amendment for school year 2021 to 2022 food management services. Do I have a motion to approve the amended K-8 COVID-19 emergency contract amendment for school year 2021 to 2022 food management services, vended meals services, nonprofit food service program?
So moved.
Second,
Okay, thank you. Ms. Merson?
Mr. Lackner,
Yes.
Mrs. McCabe,
Yes.
Mr. McNally,
Yes.
Ms. Weibel,
yes.
Mrs. Bell,
Yes.
and Mrs. Fairgrave.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. Item D, board docs. Do I have a motion to approve the board docs contract?
So moved.
Okay, and a second.
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Yeah, we were action, right?
Yes.
We're just moving so fast, I wasn't sure.
Okay.
Just to clarify, Dr. Pearson, this is the board docs with the more extensive, is that correct? Pro, I couldn't remember the name, sorry, thank you. All right, thank you.
Is that it? Okay, any other questions? Thank you for that, Ms. Weibel. Okay, Ms. Marsan?
Mrs. McCabe,
Yes.
Mr. McNally,
Yes.
Ms. Weibel,
Yes,
Mrs. Bell,
Yes.
Mr. Lackner,
Yes.
and Mrs. Fairgrave.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. 11E, board member conference meeting registrations. Do I have a motion to approve the board member conference meeting registrations?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
second,
Is there any discussion? Okay, Ms. Marsan?
Mr. McNally,
Yes.
Ms. Weibel,
yes,
Mrs. Bell,
Yes.
Mr. Lackner,
Yes.
Mrs. McCabe,
Yes.
and Mrs. Fairgrave.
Yes. Motion passes 6-0. Item F, the Citizen Advisory Committee charge. Do I have a motion to approve the Citizen Advisory Committee charge?
So moved.
Okay, and do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion or questions?
wait, hold on,
Okay.
sorry, I do have discussion.
Okay.
So can we, so Mrs. McCabe and Mrs. Bell, so, this was the original charge from 19, is that right? Or did we amend it? Help me out here.
We amended it.
I can read the motions if you like. Yes,
The
okay.
amendments mean?
The amended motions,
Okay,
correct? Amended
The-
motions.
just the edits, just help me with the edits. What did we change on it?
Oh, this one right here. Okay, well, I'll read the first one so everyone's clear. The board is asking the Citizens Advisory Committee to provide feedback on the following. One, and this was not changed, considering all the ways that the board currently receives community input and the time limitations during board meetings, are there other ways that this board could or should gather public comment? Why and how? What positive or challenging consequences may occur? Here's the part we added. Considering all the ways that the board currently receives input, are there other ways that this board should or could increase two-way communication with the community? Why and how? What positive or challenging consequences could occur?
And this is not the only charge for the year. This is just the current charge, right?
Correct.
Okay,
There were other things discussed. We just haven't voted on those, right?
okay.
We definitely heard from the committee members that they would like the charges to be clear and the reasons why they are doing the work. And so they understood that what we put in front of them was pending board approval.
Okay, cool. Great. Thank you so much for clarifying.
Any other discussion or questions? Okay. Ms. Marsan, take the roll vote.
Miss Weibel,
Yes.
Mrs. Bell,
Yes.
Mrs. Fairgrave. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. Whoops, out of order. Mr. Lackner,
Yes.
Mrs. McCabe,
Yes.
Mr. McNally,
Yes.
and Mrs. Fairgrave.
Yes. Motion passes 6-0. Okay, moving to agenda item 12 for information, which you can see there. We have the financial reports for D303 and Mid Valley for month end July 31st. We also had the COVID-19 financial impact summary, Freedom of Information Act requests, the electricity RFQ, which we did talk about, I think, previously as well in a business services, John B. Norris Recreation Center memberships, the paper copy bids for 2021, 2022 fiscal year, and the salary and benefit report for 2021 for administrators and teachers. So with that, do we have any new business? Anything? Okay. Ms. Smith, do we have any citizen comments? Looks like we do. Okay, we do have several citizen comments. So Ms. McCabe, please read the notice.
The school code provides for a public comment period at each board member meeting, subject to reasonable constraints. The practice of this board is to limit public comment to 3 minutes per speaker to a total of 30 minutes per meeting. Speakers addressing the board are expected to maintain a reasonable level of civility. Also, personnel matters are sensitive and confidential. Comments regarding individuals should be respectful. Insults and defamatory remarks have no place in this setting. The board will terminate public comment if speakers cannot adhere to these guidelines. Please identify yourself at the beginning of your remarks.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. McCabe. Our first citizen comment is from Rafael Savastano.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to address you. 2 quick points this evening. First, as you've heard previously from many in the citizen commentary, there's a growing concern regarding the continual downward trend of academic achievement in the district. I also share this concern. While the issue is likely multivariable in cause, I cannot help but notice one potential variable being that academic achievement or excellence or quality education, the core mission of any public school, is not the #1 thing listed in the vision or mission statement of the district. Likewise, for organizations like the National Educators Association, quality education is listed as a footnote to the mission and core values. I thank the district for at least being aware that this is not a footnote. Sure, the district's first bullet point in its vision statement is attain excellence, but fails to define what that means. It reminds me of so many empty feel-good corporate slogans that have no measurable performance indicator, but can be pulled out and pointed to when any broad range of things goes well as a means to say, look, we're adhering to our mission statement. Academic achievement isn't the first point in the vision or the district goals. Why? If it's not there, then it certainly isn't the top priority for the administration or staff. It's certainly wonderful to focus on making Johnny or Jane a well-rounded person, but when they graduate and fall below the state's reading and mathematic metrics, is this not a disservice? Food for thought. Second topic, on the continued conversation regarding DEI audit and training. I have been in conversation with the leadership of the nonprofit organization Fair for All regarding their new DEI school curriculum. The material is for students segmented by grade level and a program for teachers and admin training. The material for students is free and available online right now. The program for admins and teachers does have a fee, but they state it is low. They're a nonprofit. This is the only DEI program I have seen that does not use racism to combat racism, does not promote race or gender pedagogy, does not promote victimhood narrative, does not blame whites for everything, still promotes the teaching of history and its raw, naked truth, provides teachers and school training as well as students training materials, properly engaging by grade levels. And nowhere in any of the material you'll find such things as non-negotiables, white privilege hierarchies, white power structures, or required declarations or narrative ideology compliance. Their leadership team is willing to conduct a live presentation to this board, and I am willing to help facilitate this at the board's request. I would also like to point out that I emailed this entire board about this organization months ago and did not receive a response. Thus, I'm addressing you again today in person. Their approach is pro-human. Having reviewed as much as I have as the material that possibly could, it is the only DEI program that I would personally stand behind. It would be a win looking for those to include this in the training, and for the portions of the community who want to see such a program, and the other parts of the community who are extremely concerned about the content of other DEI programs that have been rolled out in districts across the country that cause extreme consternation. If you'd like to continue this conversation, all of you have my contact information. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Sean Peterson.
Hello, board. I called Dr. Pearson's office and spoke to Tammy today. I don't know if she's here. Hi, Tammy. My name's Sean Peterson. I've lived in St. Charles for about 15 years now. And today's a sad day. It's a very sad day, I think, for all of us as a community, as a school district. I have 3 kids at Pearson Creek Elementary School right now. And one of them is in 2nd grade. He attends Nicole Cornea's class. And I just found out today that she is being excluded from her work duties for some mandates that were put down by our state government. And when I first came here, I was angry, but I've become more and more just sad that we're losing teachers like Nicole Cornea to mandates that are put down that the board here can decide to exclude and move away from. So I'm just asking you as a board to look at this case and to keep a teacher like Nicole Cornea teaching our students. It's a very important, very. I'm hoping, I think we failed to, as all of us, we failed. I'm not just putting the blame on our government, on our district. We've all failed. And I'm hoping this is a right step in the right direction. I've never spoken a forum like this before. And I think it's just important that everyone knows what's going on. And I also think not everybody knows what's going on. So I'm hoping this gets the word out that things like this are happening in our school district. We need, like I said, we need teachers like Nicole Cornea teaching our children. She is one of the best teachers I've ever seen. My hope is that the board, Dr. Pearson, whoever else can step up, be a leader, and change what's happening in our district with something like this. I'm asking you just to please do everything you possibly can to keep a teacher like her teaching our kids. That's all I'm asking. I don't know if there's anything else I can do besides maybe talking to our government, sending out letters, things like that. If someone could guide me and help me do that, I will. I have no problem doing that. I just don't know what to do because I would never think I would come here in defense of a teacher that's amazing. And you need to do something about it. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Max Gordon. Yes, yes, sir.
Just data. Take one out of each folder.
Thanks, Mr. Moore.
Thanks. It's going to take a while, so you can get them later.
Yeah.
My point, by the way, I really appreciate you. The father back there, that was awesome because he's directly affected. I went there today to honor, I wasn't even going to talk about this, but I have to. I went out to Pearson Creek today. I thought about it. I thought, what am I going to do when I go out there? And it was really about honoring America. Wow. That's what we were built on. People that put it all on the line, what they really believe. And I, honest to God, will tell you, if it was somebody that was on the opposite side, I would have been there today. Just to honor their personal commitment. That's America, where you got a voice, where you can be heard, your actions make a difference. Somebody today's not getting paid with a new law called exclusion. I don't understand that. And by the way, John, I promised to thank you for this building. And I never did that. So I appreciate you, man. Yeah, sorry to drag you into this. How can that be? That's really a question. How can we, I see each of you and I actually like each of you. I believe you're decent human beings. And we've come to a point where we exclude a teacher from a classroom, from a governor that overreached. On August 4th, it finally occurred to him that these other rogue districts were starting to go mask optional, which that was a courageous vote on your part. And he decided that was the good day. That was the right day to pick, to shove onto you, who now are forced to exclude a teacher. How does the school board push back? How does Superintendent Pearson, how do all the superintendents get together? Because the wheels are coming off. The wheels are coming off. The masks don't make a difference. The vaccines it looks like it's creating the cases. The wheels are absolutely coming off, and I feel for you as a teacher. I feel for you, anybody involved in the system. So today, what I passed around, and you'll get to it. I'm sorry, Mark, I can get those. I would have done that for you later. Is all I'll finish up with this. You started to talk about academics last Monday, and I appreciate that. What I didn't hear was when. We're 1 month into the school system, or school year, and I don't know what the goal is, and I don't know when you're going to achieve it by. I know October 31st is the day is it IAR? Is that correct? Yeah, releases whatever. But you've had, I think all summer, if I'm right, all summer, you've had the SAT and the AP scores. So that's my question. That's my end. Thank you, Tammy. When am I going to know what the academic goals are? Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Okay, the board will not be going back into closed session. So with that said, I will ask for a motion to adjourn the September 27th, 2021 school board meeting.
So moved.
Can I? Thank you. Mrs. Marsan, take the roll call.
Mrs. Bell,
Yes.
Mr. Lackner,
Yes.
Mrs. McCabe,
Yes.
Mr. McNally,
Yes.
Ms. Weibel,
Yes.
and Mrs. Fairgrave.
Yes. School board meeting is adjourned at 8:01 PM. Thank you.